Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopath Fiona Chin, and every now and then I get to do these amazing conversations with people from our community that have what I would call defied the odds when it comes to kidney disease. But Liddy is far more than that. She's not just defied the odds when it comes to chronic kidney disease. And I'll let her share her story because it is quite a story. I'm blown away by Liddy, by what you've been through and endured and your positive attitude and where you're at now. But Liddy is part of our community. She has done some amazing things, including coming off dialysis. But I'll let Liddy talk to everybody about that because that's something that often people say is impossible. Liddy, I'm going to hand it over to you because your journey is kind of mind-blowing. I've just been sitting here, we've just been talking before I hit record, and just everything you've been through since it was November 2022, right, when your whole
2020.
journey. 2020, okay. Why don't you start and just tell everybody exactly what you were telling me about your kidney journey, but it didn't start as kidneys, so fill everybody in about what you've been through.
Okay, I'll try to do the shortened version because it is quite long.
It
But
is, but it's good.
in November of 2020, I started to feel really sick, cold-like symptoms, extreme cold-like symptoms. Ended up going to the ER quite a few times. I'm from Northern California, and everything was pretty locked down for COVID. Sorry, I have a dog in my lap.
Oh, good.
That's with me everywhere. But anyways, they finally did some blood work on me and realized that I had leukemia. So I was then helicoptered to San Francisco to California Pacific Medical Center. It was a very emergency to get me there quickly. I started a process called leukapheresis, which depleted my white blood cells. They were afraid of me going into shock or stroke. Once that was done, I started chemotherapy. I found out that I had acute myeloid leukemia with a FLT3 gene mutation, which acute myeloid leukemia is pretty dangerous. It's pretty risky. But I went through induction chemotherapy, which was a week long of infusions daily, and that went really well. The nurses were actually pretty shocked at how well I was taking the chemo. They'd peek in every once in a while. You still feeling okay? Yeah, I'm still feeling okay. And I thought I had it gone. It was a breeze, no big deal.
Yeah.
I had a bone marrow biopsy that next week after induction was over, and the next week I started consolidation chemotherapy. 2 days into consolidation chemotherapy, my kidney function drops, my lungs filled with fluid, and then I coded twice. Thankfully, my doctor was in the room with me and was able to revive me both times. I was then put into a medically sedated state for, I think it was about a week or so. They were concerned with brain function once I woke up, if I was going to wake up. Obviously, kidney function, that was a big thing. I was put on dialysis 24 hours a day.
Wow.
I was then woken up, and they were shocked that I still could talk. I still could communicate somewhat with people. I eventually lost all movement in my entire body. I couldn't even move my fingers. The nurses would put a giant call light button by my head so I could press it with my head. It was pretty sad. But
Wow.
did dialysis 24 hours a day. I didn't realize I was on dialysis. I never met my nephrologist there. I slowly weaned off of dialysis, did it intermittent daily, then every other day, then I think it was into 3 days a week. During that time, I was in the ICU for 50 days. I had a bowel obstruction surgery that was extremely risky. The doctor said, it's risky to do it. It's risky to not do it. So we might as well do it. So they did it. And by the grace of God, I survived that as well. I had an appendectomy at the time. I had liver infections, some fungal infections, just a lot of things. Um, After being there, let's see, from November to February, I was transferred to UCSF. Um, we believed I'd get better care at UCSF. And I met my nephrologist, the chief of nephrology, Chishu, there. He wanted to put me on his clinical trial. It was a clinical trial to get acute kidney injured patients off of dialysis. He is in the mindset that we don't all need it. Some of us do, but not everybody. And so, after a lot of talking with my parents about it and prayer, we decided to enroll me in this clinical trial. And I was picked to do dialysis as needed. So I went 6 days without dialysis, which was wonderful. Um, I had migraines after dialysis. I'd vomit after dialysis. I was weak and tired. I mean, it's an hours long process. And in the hospital, it's just even worse. I feel like very lonely,
Mm.
cold, extremely cold. I was very shocked about that feeling of just being freezing cold. Um, but anyway, so I went 6 days without going on dialysis, which was wonderful. Um, I was at UCSF for about a month, and unfortunately had to leave UCSF to go to a rehabilitation facility to learn how to walk again.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, I was fortunate that I got to go do that, but unfortunate because I had to stop the clinical trial and go back on dialysis, which was devastating to me.
Right. And how often were you having dialysis? Because obviously the
Uh,
clinical trial you to go 6 days, and they'd said for the rest of your life you probably have to have dialysis. Is that what they were sort of saying for you,
well,
or?
my doctor, no, he wanted to continue doing this trial just to
Mhm.
see. It was basically I would do blood work I don't know at that time if it was every day or every other day, but it was just he'd look at my blood work and say, "Yeah, go do dialysis today. No, don't go do it."
Gotcha. Very
So
acute management.
yeah, so I would have continued with that had I stayed at that hospital.
Gotcha.
So he couldn't be my doctor anymore, and there was no way for me to continue the trial. But at that point it was kind of like learn to walk again, or
Yeah.
it just was very difficult. um but he always just had this feeling that my kidneys could possibly come back. He thought I was young enough. I was well, it was what I was 36 when I was diagnosed with cancer. So he thought I was young enough, I was healthy enough. um I was healthy going into the hospital. So he just always thought that they could come back. And so we made the decision for me to go to Alta Bates Rehab in Oakland. And I learned how to walk again. I was there for a month, but the dialysis was miserable. It was like, a full day of rehab, and then it would take 6 or 7 hours to get me transported to dialysis, have the session, and then transported back. And I'd get get to my room, to my cold dinner tray. And I was on this renal diet where it was like nothing, basically I could eat nothing. And
Yep.
I lost so much weight. I got down to 87 pounds.
Whoa.
So it was quite a shock. I went into the hospital about 130 in November, and then left 5 months later at 87 pounds. So my mom, she really pushed to get me on a feeding tube because they'd put those cartons of Ensure, whatever, Nepro, those things that were disgusting, chemical filled, just horrible,
Mhm.
horrible stuff. And um, she just really pushed to get them to put me on a feeding tube, which was very difficult, but I believe it I believe it really helped, get me nutrition.
Mm.
Tucker. So I left the hospital. I left Alta Bates Rehab in April of 2021. So I was hospitalized from November 2020 to April 2021,
Oh,
and left in a wheelchair, but able to move, able to sit up on my own. I wasn't really eating. I was getting all my nutrition through the feeding tube, all my medications through the feeding tube, but I was in remission from cancer and doing 3 days a week dialysis. So I then enrolled in Fresenius outpatient dialysis in my hometown of Santa Rosa. And that was very devastating for me the first day, I remember just going in my wheelchair crying. I didn't want to do it. I was really sad at just the thought of going in and sitting all day. I knew how it made me feel. I knew I'd come out feeling terrible. And it was the first time I really got to witness the other patients around me, which were at least 30, 40 years older than me. A lot of them with hypertension, a lot of diabetes, not a young person with cancer, with a chemotherapy injury. It was really hard. I felt like I was treated like a 75-year-old diabetic patient.
Yeah.
And that was difficult. I don't think that my dialysis doctors really knew what to do with me. So I would leave feeling miserable. I'd cry every day. I'd come home, I'd have a migraine, I'd vomit all night, I'd wake up the next morning, vomit all day, wake up the next day. It just, for about 2.5 years, I vomited multiple times every single day because of how bad I feel. But when I'd get rehospitalized, I'd get to go back and see Dr. Shu at UCSF, which was great. And he still often was like, I just really think that you could come off dialysis. And so my mom never stopped praying for my kidneys. We always were believing that one day I would be healed and come off dialysis. So I did a couple trials with my doctor to see if I could come off. Um, it was difficult because one, he wasn't technically my doctor, so he wasn't my dialysis doctor. So there was a power struggle between the two. My dialysis doctors weren't really willing to assume the risk of me even going down to 2 days a week. Thankfully, because he's the chief of nephrology at UCSF, he kind of vouched for, me and my health, and I was able to go down to 2 days a week, which was infinitely better than 3, but I still felt miserable.
So where did Kidney Coach come in? Where did that
So
sort of
Kidney Coach was September of 2022. And so
okay.
it was quite a while of dialysis. And my mom, she's a researcher, and she has always been into vitamins and supplements and eating right. And she's like, there just has to be something. The dietitians at the hospital really didn't help with any sort of guide onto how to eat. They were really just concerned mostly with me gaining weight. I was on this feeding tube, and that was really difficult to find. Of course, there's renal feeding tube options out there, but they're full of chemicals and full of dairy, and I'm lactose intolerant, and so it was really hard to find something. And my nephrologist at UCSF really thought that could be hindering my kidneys, healing of my kidneys. And so he was really pushing to get me to get it out. So my mom was researching, found Kidney Coach. To be honest, it sounded scammy to me. The Kidney Coach. I tell everybody now, like it's legit. It works. Like, why not? And so she contacted you guys. I think she talked to you probably.
Yeah, it was me, Rachel, I think, from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, got us set up with our coach. I believe we talked to somebody different. Rachel is the
Emily.
yes.
Emily. Yep.
We talked to Emily, and that was September of 2022. October of 2022, I got my feeding tube taken out. And kidney coach, I think by that time I had Rachel, and it was incredible. She gave me such just an idea of how to eat, what to eat. I had a huge aversion to food at this point because I had been so long without eating. Chemotherapy does a lot with your senses, and um, so I started taking the supplements. I was started really strictly eating properly. I was always a good eater, but changing my thought process on what we have always been told is healthy is not exactly healthy, especially for people with kidney issues.
Mm.
The protein aspect of it was probably the hardest thing to kind of get my mind wrapped around, eating less protein. You always hear you got to eat a lot of protein to stay strong and get and have a lot of energy. So I'm not a huge meat eater anyway, so it wasn't terrible in that sense. Just realizing how much protein is in everything. So
Mhm.
Rachel's been wonderful in that aspect. So that was September of 2022. October, I got my um, feeding tube out. Around that same time, I had tried home dialysis. So I went to home dialysis training with my mom and my brother, and I had a very extreme reaction to the home dialysis
Mhm.
machine where I was basically convulsing. My heart rate dropped. It was just a very odd kind of feeling of being drugged, and it's like I'm not doing this. Um,
No.
Part of the reason of doing home dialysis was then I was able to have Dr. Shu as my doctor again, my dialysis doctor. He told me at that time, I had gone so long on dialysis that there's no way at this point that I could come off dialysis. There's just no way. He told me that he had given me false hope and he was sorry, but it's just not going to happen. And I was again devastated, just thinking that this whole time I've been hoping and hoping and hoping, but I continued with the supplements and felt like, no, I think that maybe one day I'll be off the dialysis. And, but I ended up scheduling an appointment to get a fistula. And
Mhm.
that was very hard. I had had my dialysis catheter for, I mean, since February of 2021.
Yeah,
So
wow.
year and a half, which they did not like, but I just knew that I wasn't going to need a fistula. I didn't want a permanent something in my body. I wanted this to come out, and so I didn't have to do dialysis. But I decided this is my life. I'm just going to change my attitude. I'm going to get the fistula. I'm going to make dialysis my home and um, make it better for the people around me. I started becoming friends with my dialysis crew around me. I'd make them cookies. I'd bring them Christmas presents. Just we'd go to breakfast. Just try to like bring some sort of joy into this miserable part of our lives. And so
Yeah.
I scheduled my appointment for the fistula. I think it was February of 2023. I rescheduled it to March of 2023 and was like, okay, I just have to. Like, I have
Yep.
to. The beginning of March, my hematologist actually talked to me and said, I was talking to Dr. Shu, your nephrologist, and I just kind of think you need to call him again. And I said, okay. I don't know why, but okay. So I called him and he's like, I just want to do it one more trial, just one more trial to see if you could come off dialysis. And I told my mom, okay, this is it. Just one more trial. And if it doesn't work, I'm done. Like, I can't keep
Yep.
going through this roller coaster. So it was March 13th of 2023. I had my last dialysis session. And on March 17th, I had blood work. That was my birthday, my 39th birthday. And by that next Monday, he calls me and says, you know, your lab work looks great. You're coming off of dialysis, and cancel that fistula surgery.
Ooh.
Get your catheter out as soon as possible. And I had my fistula surgery set for March 23rd. So
Wow.
this was like, like
That's
last.
divine intervention.
So at that point, I had been on Kidney Coach for 6 months, and my I started getting blood work every week. I believe it was. I'd go to San Francisco and get blood work every week, and my EGFR dropped to I believe it was 11 or 12 at one point.
Got it here. I can share it, but keep talking and I'll bring up your blood work.
So that was really concerning to me. He told me, yeah. So March 17th was the first blood work that I had gotten, and I think that was 16 maybe, and then it
Yeah, and
dropped.
this is off dialysis, right? So you've stopped dialysis at this
Yeah,
point.
so right there, I stopped dialysis. That was a couple weeks of being off of dialysis, and he had told me once my level gets down to 10, we're gonna start thinking about going back on dialysis. Once I got
Right.
to 11, he goes, you know what? Let's change that to 5. Once you get down to 5, then we'll talk about dialysis. Like I'm good with that. So this is really where my eating healthy really kicked in.
Mm.
Really focusing on what to do for myself, you know, how to keep my kidneys going. You know, it's in my mind, it's like, well, either you're on dialysis or you have a transplant or you die, you know. So um, August August 12th there was my highest it's ever been off of dialysis. It was 19, which so I went from stage 5 to stage 4, which was absolutely incredible in my mind. Um,
Mm.
and I am looking forward to stage 3. You know, eventually I am hoping that my kidneys will continue to get better. Um, but you know, my nephrologist, he really just kind of has been going off of how I'm feeling. You know, I have energy. I do pretty much nap every day. I do have that sort of fatigue, but I'm eating well. I'm well over 100 pounds now. You know, um I can walk, I can talk again. I haven't vomited since March of 2023, you know, which is incredible after going daily with vomiting. I can travel, you know, after so that was March of 2023. In April of 2023, my brother, my mom, and I participated in the Big Climb with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, where we did 2,000 stair steps at Oracle Park, San Francisco Giants Stadium. It took a couple hours, but we went up and down the stadium completely. It was a month later. Um, a year later, I did a 26.2-mile walk marathon with my mom and my
Wow.
brother, which probably shouldn't have done that. You know, I felt very miserable afterwards, and I did notice my kidney functions dropped quite a bit, but they came back.
That was that bit, was it? Right.
Yeah, it was like
Okay.
that little, yeah. So that wasn't ideal, but now I know. But I did it, you know. That was something that I have done before. I've done this marathon. That was my third time, and I had never dreamed that I could ever do anything like that again. Being on dialysis, there's no way, you know. We went on a road trip as a family to Virginia and back to visit my sister. And my mom and I had been planning dialysis sessions along the way, you know, like Omaha, Nebraska, and Amarillo, Texas on the way back, and I didn't have to do any of that. And that was
Mm.
just incredible. Um, and so I'm constantly talking to people in my support groups on Facebook about Kidney Coach, and um, you don't you don't always have to do the regimen that the doctors want you to do. There's other options. I have been met with, you know, skepticism from other doctors about supplements.
Of
Um,
course.
they're not regulated by the government, which, like, well, government regulated medications are the reason I'm in the situation that I am. And unregulated are the ones that have gotten me out of the situation. I believe that the two things, Kidney Coach and Dr. Shu, were the
Mm.
huge reasons why I'm off of dialysis. Dr. Shu gave me the okay to come off of it when most other doctors wouldn't. And
Yeah.
you guys have given me that support in, like I said, the food, the supplements, and Rachel's been incredible. Anytime I'm having issues with sleep, she's like, let me figure out something. I've gone through so many different type of supplements in order to figure out sleep, and she's like, okay, that one didn't work, let's try this, or
Yeah.
hormonal issues, pretty much anything I can think of. Anytime I see some sort of um, I don't know, something I want to try, like to drink or something, I'll just send Rachel an email. What do you think about this? And she's like, oh, that sounds great. Everything looks good. Okay, great. So it's been really wonderful. It's definitely
Yeah.
changed my life, for sure.
Well, I think, like you say, Dr. Chu, just having someone so invested in wanting a different outcome for you. And I know what our team's like, and I know what we like. Like I say, I've known about your story for a long time in the background because people just get so invested in we're going to help Liddy get off
Yeah, yeah,
dialysis. It's something actually our team spoke about. We're like, right, this is going to be something that we really want to support someone with, because it was something that we knew your nephrologist was also on board with. So
yeah.
we are so excited to see your journey, where you're at, and how your numbers are tracking now. Definitely heading up towards that stage 3. And so for you, what are your goals for the next couple of years? What's life looking for Liddy coming into early 40s?
Well, I don't know. We just moved to Knoxville, Tennessee as a family. So that's been different. Having to find new doctors, that's been extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get them on board with what I'm doing. But I have a more stronger personality now with letting them know it's Kidney Coach is a non-negotiable. So it's great. If you don't, that's too bad for you. But I've been trying to. Well, I was asked to be a part of the patient advocate committee for the O'Brien Kidney Centers um,
Amazing.
research centers. So I've been, you know, helping out any way I can through Zoom meetings and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to that over the next. I think it's a 2-year commitment. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. I really don't have a lot of plans. Just kind of taking it easy and enjoying life, and spending time with my family. And I'm not working, which I secretly love. It gives me time to just do more things that I love to do and go visit
Well,
my nephews in
you
Virginia.
you have been working full time on your health and just staying alive. I would say that's a full-time job over the last 4 years, and you're giving back to the kidney community, which I just think is wonderful to see you do that. If anyone was listening and they're thinking, wow, that's quite a journey, what words of wisdom would you want to impart with anyone that's going through kidney disease and thinking that they've got no options and it's the end of the line for them, or all those sort of things? What are the big things that you've taken out of your journey that you wish you knew really early on?
Well, I think what comes to mind is a recent friend of mine that I just made through a support group. She had reached out on the support group, kind of asking the same thing that you just did. She's just feeling very hopeless. She's 30, I think 38 years old. She's going through new kidney failure. I think it's been only a few months that she's been on dialysis. She's hopeless. And what comes to mind is just that there is hope. There's always hope, you know. I think, and especially with my Christian background, like God will always give you the strength to go through whatever you need to go through, you know, and He's going to put people in your life to help you go through those things. And, um, you know, it is really hard seeing some of the kidney patients at the dialysis center. And, you know, the year and a half, 2 years I was at that center, you know, seeing those patients decline rapidly, it's very sad. It's very hard. I think trying to just work so hard to not be in that situation, you know, um, eat better, sleep better, you know, just I don't know, find different options, different ways, you know. Like I said before, you don't always have to um, go with your doctor. You know, he's not always right. And there's always clinical trials. I think those are huge to try.
Mm.
And I don't know, is what's the harm of trying?
Yeah.
No.
Liddy, I think you're amazing and everything that you've been through. And, you know, and I know you gave the short version when we hit record. Anyone that's listening, Liddy and I were talking before I hit record, and her she's missed half of the stuff. She passed out in the shower, thought she was dying, which she was, helicopter, because I didn't think she was going to make it. You've been really in the depths of what it could be like to feel despair of potentially losing your life. And you know, you've had quite a few occasions where people didn't think you were going to make it. It was COVID, that loss of connection. Your family wasn't allowed to see you. It's not a little, it's a lot. And so for you to come out the other end and be smiling and advocating and, you know, volunteering your time and have such a positive attitude and the strength that you found in yourself to advocate for yourself, which is a big thing. You probably know we're big about that at Kidney Coach, because that's what it takes really for people to make a dent on their health. For you to go through all of that and get there and then just be the shining light that you are, I think is amazing. So thank you for sharing your journey and being part of our community and being one of the, and just paving the way of doing something that people say is impossible. I think that's amazing. And we will be here to support you all the way, hopefully back up to stage. I think Dr. Chu, I'm going to say I can see a stage 2 in your horizon.
Yeah, let's get all of those doctors' minds spinning with how, you know, how that happened.
Well, I think so. I think that's a good legacy to leave, and that's exactly it. What a beautiful legacy you're going to impart on this world. Liddy, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And please know, I know Rachel said this to you, but we're here and we are here. You know, we're very invested in hoping to get you right back up onto those levels. So you need anything, you just let us know. Any comments or anything below? And Liddy, do you mind if you've got support groups or anything like that? Do you want to email me the details and I'll pop them in below on Facebook if people want some support or people are doing it by themselves? If there's groups that people can join, I think that'd be great, especially if you're in there as well, where people can connect with people that are making a difference.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Take care, and I hope you found this really useful. Thanks, Liddy.
Thank you.